like to have a brief discussion about high school movies because one that I saw was an above-average high school film, and I'd just like to touch on them briefly because the Harry Potter movies are kind of high school movies. I think we could make that argument.
Yeah, I think
I can
that's
agree
kind of
with
the
that.
foundation. Yeah.
So
Very angsty, very magical.
true.
A bunch of people with no idea what they're doing, figuring out the world, but with wands.
Well, this is, as we say, the infamous hack fraud show. And today we're looking at, in celebration, a week late, of the release of Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, which I still haven't seen, actually.
Same.
I saw it.
Ooh!
We'll have things to say about them.
Oh, great. I have nothing to say about it, because I haven't seen it. But
Well, Tyler and I need to leave the room so that we don't get spoilers.
I don't give a fuck about spoilers, Warner.
Oh,
I'm probably not going to say too many spoilers. I don't think I really need to.
I probably will give the biggest one of all, so...
If it's that Eddie Redmayne isn't that good of an actor, that's not a spoiler. We already knew that.
Oh, that's just this. I thought I'd be against people who would defend Eddie Redmayne, but no, I'm in a safe space. That's good.
Yeah. Well, anyway, as I was saying, in a week-late celebration of Fantastic Beasts, we are looking at the film commonly considered the best Harry Potter movie. That would be Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, along with another movie called The In-Laws, which we'll get to in a little bit here.
I didn't get to watch it, so. Yay, college! Yay, paperwork! Yay, I'm dying!
We all are, Warner. We all are.
I know.
I want to die.
But
Go fuck yourself.
speaking of which, before we get into the assignments here, I just I saw a little movie over the weekend called The Edge of 17, starring Haley Steinfeld.
That.
And I just wanted to talk briefly about, because as I said, the Harry Potter movies are kind of high school movies, and that's a genre of movie that I kind of have a vested interest in, so I just wanted to talk about that a little bit. I will preface it by saying The Edge of 17 is rather good. I always admire high school movies that have the balls to like go for a solid R rating, and this one definitely did.
That is the high school experience.
Yeah. No,
It really is.
it's good. They talk about sex. They curse. It's lots of fun.
Yay.
They drink. Yeah, fun times. Anyway, so this movie's pretty good. Haley Steinfeld is great in it. Woody Harrelson gives a fun little supporting turn as a teacher who is, shall we say, performs above and beyond the call of duty. I make that sound more sexual than it actually is. It's not sexual at all, but
Aw.
so
That's good.
So one thing I kind of liked about this movie is that I think high school movies kind of have to walk a tricky line between like treating adolescence problems seriously, so because the protagonists do, and like also like appropriately putting those problems in perspective, because those problems are rarely like real world kind of problems. And this movie did a good job of balancing that, whereas generally high school movies tend to tip too far in one direction or the other.
It's a line whereas you have to establish stakes and a conflict, but you do actually have to reveal that this is a lens.
Yeah.
We are seeing the world from a kind of stilted perspective.
Yeah, it's tough because, I think that there's a lot of, pressure to kind of judge members of this generation, which I would never begrudge anyone for doing.
Our generation is screwed up.
But
We will be
There is a reason, but
anyway, I just, I do think that, there is a way to make very good high school movies. And I think John Hughes was kind of the best at it. And there has really been no heir apparent to John Hughes. I mean, the more I think about it, the more I realize the best high school movie ever made is actually just Rushmore. But Ferris Bueller's Day Off comes pretty close.
You can make an argument for that.
Yeah.
I've always kind of come down to this, and this is kind of a maxim I hold, is sort of when you're making any kind of movie, and especially a high school movie that is so often steeped in archetypes and different writing stories about people is how you get over that sort of the cliches of high school. That like, okay, let's just take this setting and write interesting people to fill it.
Yeah.
That's not to say quirky characters, which they sometimes do, but actual characters.
Speaking of quirk, I was going to say the Edge of 17 is no Juno, but
Juno to me is just a falsehood of just that's not a
But
character.
both-
That's a goofy set piece.
both from my perspective and from John's perspective, because I love Juno. I rewatched it recently and reaffirmed my love for it, whereas if John disavows it completely.
Good for you. Though I do hate that movie the less I think about it.
That's typically how it works, John.
John, whatever you do, don't think about the movie Juno.
Yes.
Juno.
Shall we move on to a classic segment? What we've been watching.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I kind of started that.
We
Oh.
opened the proceedings with a general look.
By the way,
using film as a catalyst.
remember how I said I was going to an advanced screening of La La Land?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't get in. And
Bastards.
here's the kicker. I spent $25 to go because what I really paid for was a festival that was happening of which the screening was a part, but I didn't want to go to anything else. I just wanted to see the movie, and so I basically threw away $25.
Oh, so you didn't see anything else there?
We walked around a little bit. There was a Maroon 5 concert, but I wanted no part of that, so...
As
I
you
can't
should.
blame you.
Yeah, okay.
I
Anyway,
would have ran in the opposite direction.
it doesn't matter. I'm still seeing La La Land. It's currently the front runner for Best Picture, so I just haven't seen it
I will
yet.
eventually see it.
We will eventually.
And we will talk about it, probably.
Oh, goodness. Reed, do you want to talk about Fantastic Beasts and where to find them?
Spoiler alert. They're in a Hoovian suitcase. That's where the Fantastic Beasts are.
That's not
You
really...
know where to find them.
It's not really a
Spoiler
spoiler,
alert.
is it? That was kind of a selling point.
Spoiler alert, why the fuck does Eddie Redmayne keep getting work? What?
A question we should all be asking of ourselves.
He's so terrible in this. Like, there's a point where is like this big hippopotamus, or no, it's a rhino that has brain cancer, and Eddie Redmayne's trying to get the rhino with brain cancer back into the suitcase.
Yes.
So he starts doing a sexual song and dance where he struts his ass at the camera,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
and I'm thinking, this is awful. But
That part was not smart.
this is a movie where it's trying to put in a fuck ton. You have 20
Really?
CGI New York. You
Wait.
have
Wait, an author of novels writing her first screenplay trying to cram too much into a single movie? Well, I never.
I know. Yeah, you have. There's Eddie Redmayne and his suitcase of animals with a billion backstories. You have the subplot of children suppressing their wizardry and turning into monsters. You have a literal witch hunt group called the New Salem People that are the movie's race allegory. You have this thing where monsters are attacking muggles, but they aren't called muggles in America. They're called nomads.
God, I hate
And
the
then
term
there's an
nomad.
American Congress.
Which
Oh
is
wait, there's
fascist,
also
which is fascist as fuck.
that's fascist as fuck. There's also like this quirky office worker within the American Congress bureaucracy who has no character whatsoever. And her running joke is that she keeps running into important meetings with Madam President, and she's about to be fired for I have no idea why. And then the monsters get out, and then there's this thing in Europe that's going on where a guy is trying to be Black Power but with wizards.
Oh, that's Gellert Grindelwald. He comes in the
Gellert
second
Grindelwald.
one.
Yeah, and then he's revealed as one of the he was hiding as someone in the bureaucracy at the end after we catch a boy who turns it. Fuck this fucking plot. It's like watching some kind of Eisenstein montage for 2 hours.
Boy, all this, in addition to the complete apathy I had already been feeling, really makes me want to see this movie.
Yeah, and also, the effects are good. The CGI is really obvious, and it's like you could tell where the green screens are. You could tell where the real ends and the fake begins. What else is there? Like the fucking creatures that are in the movie for like maybe 10 minutes at the most.
They have
far more character than any of the humans.
Yeah.
Or wizards. Fuck everything.
Characters.
It's just a movie that's just juggling way too much and trying way too hard. I will give it this. After the Alfonso Cuarón-inspired grayness of all the last Harry Potter pictures, it is nice to see something that's a nice golden orange. I'll give it that. And you know what? If there's going to be like 5 more of these, we might get a film that's just Eddie Redmayne going to Sudan, Europe, or other places and just catching cool monsters. And that might be fun.
I thought that was what this movie was going to be when it was first announced.
It's not. Like that's just all backstory. They go into a suitcase and it's full of monsters, and he says, "I caught him there. I caught him there. Oh, I found these here," and that's it. That's it.
That's what this movie was supposed to be.
And that would have been a much fucking better movie.
A little.
I would love to see like a kind of Indiana Jones movie set in the Harry Potter world. Like that would
that'd be fun.
That'd be a rollicking good time.
I think
I'd love to see something about Ron's older brother that's exploring the pyramids.
Ooh, I'd watch that.
Why the fuck not? Why the fuck not? Like, get small. Go small, J.K. Rowling.
Please, for
Hey,
your audience.
Can I just say, did any of you read Harry Potter and the Cursed Child?
Not yet.
It's horrible. It's Back to the Future Part 2 set in the Harry Potter universe. And Back to the Future Part 2 is the worst Back to the Future movie.
See, I'd heard that it was basically fan fiction, so
Yeah.
not surprisingly.
It's awful.
Oh god. Wow, we're just really big fans of where this series is going.
It's just more of the fucking member-berry new nostalgia shit.
Yeah, it's Harry Potter. This whole Hogwarts saga has been all about let's subvert the Chosen One narrative and really dive into what the fuck that actually means. And once that ended, they're like, "Yeah, we got wizards and lots of magic and fuck."
Yeah, pretty much.
So yeah, if you want to see some cool designs and feel like you're having an epilepsy, then go see Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them.
Hint, they're in a trunk. That's all you need to know. That's all you need to know.
So,
That might be a selling point, but there's not much else. There's unnecessary political plot that doesn't have any payoff.
And none of it goes anywhere. It's like it's a movie with a lot of good ideas, but there's just so many competing with each other. It all just feels like nonsense. It all feels like an Eisenstein montage.
yeah. All right, well, so I also saw a couple other things. I saw a little movie.
My Neighbor Totoro.
Oh, you did?
I watched it for a class.
What did you think?
I loved it. It was adorable.
Okay.
I was giggling the whole time through.
Neighbor Totoro.
Wait, what?
What?
You, the
I
fucking
mean,
Miyazaki lobbyist?
I haven't either.
John?
This was my first time seeing it. It was so adorable. It was just what I needed.
John?
I'm trying to lower my expectations, then go into
John? Even I've seen My Neighbor Totoro.
I haven't.
I guess I just never been that compelled to see it.
Well, it's like generally kind of considered like the ideal Miyazaki entry point. And it's
And I didn't enter using that.
It's my least favorite of the ones of his that I've seen so far, just because it feels kind of inconsequential.
Well, that's what I've heard some things about like, it's not as strong as people say. So I'm like, I'll see it. I'm just gonna wait a while.
It's not as strong as some of his later works, but it is an adorable movie, and it is a good feel-good movie.
That's what I hear. Well, it wasn't My Neighbor Totoro one of the Idiot's feel-good movies?
Yes. It is a feel-good. If you're looking for just like a nice little heartwarming feel-good story, I think My Neighbor Totoro fits that bill just fine.
To escape
Which is exactly what I needed tonight.
Yeah.
I had too many papers.
Though granted, it's likely I'd find Kiki's delivery service is better at that.
Yeah,
but
it's hard to say.
That one is so much fun too.
Or Porco Rosso.
Porco Rosso has got this morose, melancholic underpinning to it. I can't quite call that a complete feel-good movie.
Anyway.
It has Pittsburgh's, quote-unquote, Pittsburgh's own Michael Keaton.
You're right!
Anyway, I also saw a movie called Manchester by the Sea, starring Casey Affleck.
And
it's good. It's a lot of people are like, the critics have been really praising it, which I'm not sure is totally deserved. It's a very well crafted movie. It's a real kind of like slice of life kind of thing. The story is like this guy, Casey Affleck, plays this like working class Boston type. Shockingly, whose his brother dies of like a heart attack or something, and then his brother's will stipulates that for him to take care of his nephew, who's like this I don't know, like 16-year-old kid played by actually Lucas Hedges, who was featured prominently in Wes Anderson's Moonrise Kingdom, which I only realized after the fact, after sitting through the whole movie going, where have I seen this kid before?
I hate when that happens. That was me through all of Superman Returns, because the star is now playing, what's his name, Palmer, of Palmer Industries.
Yeah, who's Brandon Routh playing in that?
He's the Atom.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he's the Atom. I'll never see that show.
Anyway, good movie. The performances are fucking great. The kid is great. Casey Affleck is great. This is another movie.
Nice little movie.
Yeah, this is another movie that like almost put me to sleep in the first hour, but the middle stretch is great, and I think it's worth seeing. It's a very interesting and compelling movie once you kind of dig into it.
Recently, for a class, I saw Michelle Haneke's Cachet.
Oh,
and it's marvelous. It's a movie. Here's the thing. Imagine if Rear Window was a much better movie about surveillance and voyeurism.
Like we all thought it would be.
Yeah, what we thought it would be. Like it's like it Cachet is kind of some of the ideas of Rear Window, but it's far more disturbing. It's far more. It's far darker, of course. Like there's literally a scene. There's some like shocking shit in Cachet that really catches you off guard. A lot of it's filmed.
How was Rear Window as good of a film as it was at the time? I saw that a couple weeks ago for a class, and I was just like, really?
People have a hard-on for Hitchcock.
It's true.
But I guess going back to Cachet, like a lot of that movie is literally we are given tapes and we are shown exactly from the perspective of the voyeur, and we never see the voyeur in the entire movie. We see people who are suspected of it, but we never know if they actually did it. So it's very ambiguous.
That sounds very interesting.
I highly recommend Cachet. It is slow. It is deliberately paced. I will say that, but I think it is very gripping.
I will add that to the list of foreign films you guys have recommended that I have yet to watch.
I think this one's. I think it's far less candy colored than Amelie. So.
Well, maybe I'll like that. And then
Um,
just one last thing. Just today, actually, I finally got around to watching Michael Mann's Heat.
ooh, how was that?
It's interesting. I didn't love it. It's I think it goes like big and broad and sprawling in terms of the storytelling when it should really be like laser focused. Like Pacino and De Niro give like the two main performances, and they're both great. I mean, Pacino's pretty over the top, but it's very entertaining to watch.
It's Pacino and De Niro. That's what you get.
Yeah, but they're both very good. Their characters are very good, and I think the movie should have been like laser focused on them and their kind of battle of wills that happens between them. Because De Niro is like playing this like career criminal, and Pacino is playing this like police lieutenant who's hunting him down. And it takes a very broad, sprawling approach with all these characters and kind of character threads, and it really just ends up the only satisfying like journey in it is that of Pacino and De Niro. So
Like that's if I was a filmmaker and I was able to get Pacino and De Niro to bounce off each other, I wouldn't film anything else.
yeah, I mean, they don't really bounce off each other per se. They only have like 2 scenes together, but like they are kind of unconsciously like bouncing off each other throughout the movie. But like, the movie's 2 hours 50 minutes long. Like, good God, man, you should have really just kind of focused in on this. So suffice it to say, I'll hope Darren Franich is right about Collateral, and I'll watch that sooner rather than later, I hope.
Yeah, I need to dive into some Michael Mann. He seems really interesting.
He's a real blind spot for me. I'm super interested in both Collateral and The Insider, which are 2 of his movies that people tend to talk about.
So is that it for what we've been watching?
I also finished Stranger Things.
Oh, how is that?
It's a 2-hour movie stretched to 8 hours, and that movie is basically J.J. Abrams' Super 8. So take that as you will. It's fine.
That sounds awful.
Yeah, suffice it to say, I was more edified as an artist and a person by the first episode of Freaks and Geeks than I was by Stranger Things. Which Freaks and Geeks, another great kind of entry in the high school media canon, but whatever.
Something else I've been watching. I watched at least some of the first season of BoJack Horseman.
Oh yes.
Oh, no.
It's brilliant.
Yeah.
That show's brilliant.
Yeah.
I will say I haven't really picked it up in a while because Jesus Christ, that show gets dark.
Oh yes, it does.
Yeah. And I'm just like, oh, I do not need this right now. But yeah, I will definitely return to that at some point. Hopefully, maybe
season 2, episode 11. Just you'll understand when you get there.
Horsing
Yeah,
around.
well, I've only made it to the end of the
around.
first season.
Actually, what am I kidding? There's horsing around every single episode. Never mind.
There's always horsing around.
Yes, never mind.
So, what do we want to talk about first?
I think it is the order of the day. Harry Potter 3, The Prisoner of Azkaban.
All right.
And then
So
a special feature.
let's
And then the dessert.
let's talk some Harry Potter, because like many people, I have a long history with this franchise.
Okay.
I have a history too, but it's very, very stunted.
I have a stunted history with this as well. So,
Like, I'm going to admit this, I've only seen the first 3 movies. I don't know what it was, but I kind of just lost interest along the way.
Oh,
I have actually just seen all the movies as recent as August. So as in, from this August on, I had seen all the Harry Potter movies.
so
Have seen all of the Harry Potter movies and read all of the books within the last 3 months.
I've seen all the movies and read all the books. I had not, before this week, I had not watched a movie before the 5th one in more than a year. I think maybe more than 2, actually. It had been quite a while. So I've read all the books. I kind of paged back through most of them. Like, I didn't read them all again, but I kind of flipped through them over the summer, and I think they hold up. They're still very well written.
The books, oh yeah, they hold up.
Um,
And it's not just nostalgia.
Yeah. The
I have a very
movies,
flaky history with the books.
the movies, meanwhile,
Incredibly flaky
so
as well.
I had always held that the fifth movie, Order of the Phoenix, I always thought that one was pretty good. I rewatched it over the summer, and I think
And
Warner
he joined the rest of us.
and that movie. Wow, that movie's terrible.
Well, what do people really think about the whole lineage?
So pretty much everybody kind of agrees that there were like good Harry Potter movies and not so good Harry Potter movies. I think pretty much like the general consensus is like Prisoner of Azkaban is the best, Chamber of Secrets is the worst, and everything else kind of falls somewhere in between.
Well, Chamber of Secrets is the consensus worst, not the one they consider. Not because I think they explained this in Vidiots. Some have like everyone has like a personal worst, but the consensus is Chamber of Secrets.
No.
I'm gonna have to stop you guys right there. Maybe that's the film student world. The actual Harry Potter world. No, the fifth one is hated by the entire Harry Potter world.
Because they
I
take
concur with that, because at least with the second,
It is
you have a
widely
fucking
considered
story.
the absolute worst.
Is it because they take so much stuff from the book out?
That it's because they, well, for one, everybody hates Dolores Umbridge, who was actually portrayed phenomenally. They hate
granted,
the style of the movie. They hate just about everything about the movie. I won't even listen to people's rants about it any longer because they will, on average, last an hour and a half.
I mean, granted, you would think. I mean, I totally agree, but like, you would think that because of how hated Dolores Umbridge is, you would think she's an incredible antagonist that would propel that movie forward. You would think that.
Well, the problem is they portray her phenomenally for the part of her that they give, but it is widely considered the worst Harry Potter movie.
Well, that book is great. I will say
The book
that.
is widely considered the greatest, but the movie is the worst.
Yeah,
Widely considered the worst.
I have to agree. Like it to me, it really. I used to not like that movie because it cut so much out from the book, and then I kind of came around to thinking it was pretty good, and then I watched it again, and I'm like, oh, this is just a terrible movie. Like it's not good. It's not interesting. And actually, what's interesting is that was the one movie that was not written by the screenwriter that wrote the majority of the movies. Like who
is that screenwriter?
Steve Kloves is his name, and he took that movie off to kind of recuperate, and I think it kind of shows.
I'm curious, why were you saying that Chamber of Secrets is widely considered the worst?
That's just what
just because it's just the first movie again.
Yeah, like people say like that movie's like 2 hours and 40 minutes long. It's it tries to cram in like as much as it possibly can, and it all adds up to kind of not much. And also, I think kind of like once Alfonso Cuarón came along and kind of like radicalized the movies in every direction, like that approach was kind of no longer looked upon. And like Sorcerer's Stone kind of benefits from the nostalgia goggles just because it was the first one, although I would argue that movie hasn't aged very well either.
I am fully behind the idea that neither of those two aged well. I was just curious why it was considered the worst, because personally, I think Half-Blood Prince is worse than both of those.
Whoa. Okay. Back up a second. So let me just. So Warner, you rewatched all the movies like very recently. Am I correct?
Yeah.
So can we just run through? I know John probably doesn't have much of an opinion on this, but what do we each consider? What do we each consider the best and the worst movie? Just quickly.
The best, and like a story and cinematography film, the sixth one was the best, and the fifth one was the worst.
Okay.
I'm gonna be honest. Most of mine is not from a filmmaker or her theatrical standpoint. Mine is from.
You know this, Warner.
Well,
it's fine.
I have to clarify with these movies because they're is so much of it's not accurate to the books factor.
Mhm.
My favorite is by far the Prisoner of Azkaban, and the worst, in my opinion, is the Order of the Phoenix. There we go. Fifth.
Okay.
Okay.
So
I
yeah,
can see
And
that.
for my opinion, they're all flawed.
yeah, I was.
Oh, they are all.
True. They are
Yeah,
all
like-
very flawed.
None of these movies are perfect. I think Darren Franich had a very good point about like how watching them is all kind of like watching an episode of Saturday Night Live, where like there are good parts and then there are not so good parts, and it's kind of a mixed bag. But
My bottom three are Order of the Phoenix is the bottom, Goblet of Fire is the second to bottom, and then the first part of the last book, Deathly Hallows, is third.
What?
okay, so
Okay, that's a little strange.
my personal opinion, it's just. I mean, it's taken me a while. I still like. It's hard for me to kind of just view these movies as movies. Like, I honestly don't know what it's like to watch these movies like without having read the books. Like, I'm very curious about how they
I
play.
was able to do that.
I was able to do that too.
But in my opinion, I'm with Garrett Reed. Sort of. I think Half-Blood Prince is the best. It's the best book and the best movie. And I think Goblet of Fire, the movie, is by far the worst. I really do not like that movie at all.
Although I do have a controversial opinion that I really love the cinematography in Deathly Hallows Part 1.
Deathly Hallows Part 1 is great. It's a very close second for me.
And I mean, ultimately, like, the slow pace kind of works for me.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to say that personally, that's what's in, like, top 3.
I love
Well,
that
we
one.
all know that I have the controversial opinions.
But it's okay.
I think that's more my job, but I will say I have read Half-Blood Prince, the book. I have not seen the 6th movie. What I have, after hearing the Vidiots podcast, I'm now kind of inclined to now, especially hearing y'all talk about it.
I
might
recommend
go
it.
look at that movie.
It's like
I agree full-heartedly that it's the best book, but I don't like how they transferred it to the screen, and not because they left stuff out or put stuff in or in a different way. I didn't get the same feeling from watching it that I got from some of the other ones. Like, that was one of the ones that I was like, is it done yet?
well,
I think they'll do it.
my kind of rationale with that one has always been like both in book and movie form. It's like the formula perfected. Like Deathly Hallows kind of goes off on its own kind of little thing and does something kind of very different. But like Half-Blood Prince was where like J.K. Rowling was like, and the filmmakers had like, okay, we know how to do this now. Like we're in, we're telling like a story like spanning the course of a school year. Like the crew now and like the art department and everything and the cast, like they all really know their stuff. We know what we're doing. We're here. We're doing it. And like to me, it's like all of the like the culmination of everything that they've been kind of building to like craft wise in terms of storytelling and
Yeah, the
artwork.
studio is very coordinated, and I actually kind of appreciate that, even though I will admit I have never read the books.
Well, I will admit one of my biggest problems with that particular movie is Lavender Brown.
Oh, what? I got no hate in my heart for Lavender Brown.
I hate Lavender Brown as a character, and I hate what they did with her in that movie, because she had no business being nearly as frequently on screen as she was. She is not a good enough character. She is not, in the movies, she was not developed enough to do that. The second thing, they completely changed the actress for her.
The character is really... This is a rare example of J.K. Rowling kind of doing like the Manic Pixie Dream Girl thing. Not really, but kind of. Like where like Lavender Brown is kind of just a springboard to develop Ron a little bit. But that's kind of a different conversation. Let's talk about the movie we actually watched. Which would
the
be...
Alfonso Cuarón directed...
Yes. Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban.
Oui.
I love this movie. I fucking love this movie.
I used to hate this movie.
I'm going to be honest, one of my top 5 reasons for loving this movie is Hermione's punch.
That is a very satisfying punch.
The modern,
That is a quite good punch.
the modern feminist movement was born the moment Emma Watson punches Draco Malfoy in the face.
And can I just say, her form was beautiful?
I'm going to say this, and this is going to be quite controversial. What's the big fucking deal?
I think I can kind of explain the big fucking deal on this one. So
I'm going to write notes for this because I'm genuinely curious.
So obviously, like, the first 2 movies were very kind of like slavish workman kind of, Chris Columbus directed the first 2 movies. It was very much about like how much from the book can we cram into a single movie? How
it helped that those 2 were the shortest 2 books and had the least to get crammed in.
Sure. And
that
yet
was on
those
side.
ended up being the longest movies. But anyway, so they did their best with that, and so Alfonso Cuarón comes in with the third one and just changes the whole ball game. He's like, no, we're gonna make this like an actual movie. We're gonna treat these people like real actors. Like, a famous anecdote is like he made the lead 3 actors all write essays like about their characters to try and help them get in their characters' heads more. Rupert Grint famously didn't do his because Ron wouldn't do it, which is absolutely true.
It really is.
So, and like he brought in his own style. He changed the adaptation process. Like, he was like, this is Harry's story. We're focusing on Harry. Like, everything that doesn't play into that can go. And, his approach to that was kind of just carried over by all the directors that came in after him. So he was very much responsible for shifting the way that these movies were kind of adapted and produced.
Well, that's the thing about it. Like, you say he tried to make things feel like a movie, and it looks like a movie. The film looks gorgeous. Granted, I don't know why everything's fucking gray all of a sudden, but things are getting dark.
The other thing is,
I buy that. I buy the whole grayscale.
Like, this is kind of the turning point in the narrative a little bit. Like, Goblet of Fire maybe even more so, but like, this is the point where like J.K. Rowling started to be like, oh shit, there's like backstory and mythology to this. Like, there's kind of an internal continuity. Like, okay, this, and like you can still see like some of the like kid book, like, whimsical stuff poking through, like the time turner and that sort of thing, and like the beginning where Harry blows up his aunt, and like the night bus. Like, none of that stuff really comes back, but like, this is where like you really start to get the backstory, and you get the sense that like this movie, the events of this movie propel everything that happens in the sequence of Harry Potter afterwards. Like, Peter Pettigrew getting away is what enables Voldemort to kind of rise to power and like dominate the back half of the series.
I'm writing notes.
So
I will, because to me this movie feels like a strange, stretched out episode of television with a big budget. Because like, I remember when the climax hit, I remember thinking, "Fuck, this is the climax. This is it. We just have some weird time traveling escapades with only 2 of our characters. Is this it?" I was kind of like, wait, fuck, this is it? I just felt like I watched like some out of context episode of television. I felt like I was cheated out of a movie.
I'm gonna be honest. My first time reading through the book and then again watching the movie, I was like, wait, they're doing stuff without Ron? They can do that?
Well, the reason I still hold Half-Blood Prince as the best one of the movies is like, I do think Alfonso Cuarón's filmmaking is better. Like, this very much feels like an Alfonso Cuarón film.
Oh yeah, this has a stamp all over.
Like, watch like one of his movies like Children of Men or something, and you'll definitely see the similarities. But like, the writing in this one still is not quite there. Like, I was watching it and I was like, okay, the filmmaking is great, but like the writing is still just a little bit off.
And the acting is still in transition.
Yeah, it is.
Like, these actors are still trying to figure out, like, what is... I think Hermione's there. Ron is there, but Harry's not.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it took Daniel Radcliffe quite some time to kind of come into his own as an actor, but
I'd argue it would take him basically until Half-Blood Prince
I agree.
to get his acting.
Yeah.
Well, his
Draco's always been there.
Yeah.
True.
Like, in this movie, I remember moments, like, I remember, like, the Hippogriff and, like, the Hagrid subplot. I remember the time travel bullshit. I remember him interacting with the fucking werewolf. God,
Hagrid's suit. Hagrid's
that's a magnificent suit.
I want one.
But like, it feels like an episode of television in how it's paced and how it presents. It looks like a movie, except for terrible CGI. But no, it looks like a movie. It's got the Alfonso Cuarón stamp on everything. But there's kind of this weird pacing to it, and I never feel like what is being accomplished here? What is our end goal? What are we building towards in the context of this contained movie? Which wherever you want to say about the rest, which is completely valid, you can say this.
And you know, like,
series.
I agree with you. I think you're right. Like, honestly, I do think that Half-Blood Prince, I'm going to keep coming back to this, it's the only one where they were like, this is the story, this is the movie, this is its own self-contained thing, this is what we're doing. That movie feels complete, and this movie, like I say, like, it's not quite there. Like, this, it doesn't feel like quite contained enough to kind of stand on its own.
See,
It's way too episodic for its own good, I think. Like, it doesn't... It's,
I can agree that this one feels like it's is missing something, but at the same time, I can't agree that Half-Blood Prince feels complete.
It doesn't.
To me, it feels like it's too much of a springboard.
Because
that's all
it
it
is.
is.
Watch Half-Blood Prince.
Well,
It is a bit of a springboard, especially towards the end. But over and all,
All of them, except for the last one, have a distinct springboard feel. And the first part of Deathly Hallows is the worst with it, partly because it's split into two parts. But it's...
all right, well, completely disagree about that, but we can talk about that later. Just, I mean, Half-Blood Prince, like, yeah, it has that springboard element, but, like, that movie is about something. That movie is about the relationship between Harry and Dumbledore. This movie
is about the relationship between Harry and Sirius Black.
it tries to be about that, but
No,
I'm
it's
not.
not.
But it
that's
is
that's
about
not
it.
until the end.
No,
That's
the whole thing, it is about that. Because it hints at it. Because it hints at Sirius Black has some big part to play in Harry's life. And he
Yeah, but there's a
finds...
difference between hinting to something and actually showing it.
No, it showed it. It showed it through not doing anything with it. Because everybody, they'd talk about Sirius Black, and then any of the adults would shut up about it as soon as Harry gets nearby. And they wouldn't let Harry go do these things because it's unsafe. And they'd say, "You're not going to go find Sirius, are you? No? Okay, good. Why would I go find Sirius? Oh, don't worry about that." And
That's foreshadowing. That's the thing. That's a foreshadowing. That's the thing movies do. But that's not establishing a relationship. That's not establishing a real dynamic.
It is
That
establishing
doesn't happen
curiosity.
until we fucking meet Sirius Black.
It does establish curiosity, but it doesn't.
It does not establish
plot. It doesn't establish relation.
It does not establish the relationship, but it does establish that there is a relationship, and it does, and it's not just foreshadowing. Yes, it's a lot. It's very heavy foreshadowing, but it is not just foreshadowing. It is actually, it is the plot. It's telling you, hey, something's going to happen with this. This is a relationship that you're going to learn more and more about.
It does build suspense, yes.
But then again, that's another thing. That is something that is not. It is building to something that is not in the movie itself. Like, I'm talking about. We can talk about all we want about the grand arc of Harry Potter, and that's wonderful. That's great, but movies need to be self-contained to a certain degree. Serialization is fine.
Well, they don't explore the relationship between Sirius and Harry more until the 5th one, and they fail at that.
Actually, I thought that they did an okay job in that.
Not really. They don't.
They did a much better job.
I think it's the best part of the 5th movie, actually. Maybe just because, like...
I will agree, it's the best part, but they don't do a good job with it.
We came in at trying to talk about Harry Potter 3, and we've just spiraled into
all
of them.
It's hard to talk about any one of the Harry Potter movies on its own, just because none of them are meant to stand on their own. And
they're very serialized.
And I don't know, I do like Prisoner of Azkaban. I still don't think it's the best. I do think Quaron brought a very interesting eye, and he was obviously very important to, like, the direction that these movies would go in. You can talk about, like, the motifs that he has, like, going through glass and, like, the footprints and all that sort of thing. He clearly knows, he, I think, is probably, like, the best filmmaker to tackle one of these movies.
Oh, without a doubt.
And suffice it to say, just go watch Children of Men.
Yeah, as far as I think it's a case of, like, I can't deny, like, it's gorgeous unless there's some CGI, which is, I don't know what this series has with its relationship with CGI, but, like, it's still the 3 pals. They're all interesting. They're all bouncing off each other. There's lots of intrigue and mystery and magic, and it's fun to watch. I just don't think it feels like I feel like I'm watching the middle of it. It's not even a full episode. It's the middle of it. It's the middle piece of an episode, and I've just barely missed the beginning and the end.
The other thing is that it's very strange to watch David Thewlis in this movie, having now seen Anomalisa. For the love of God.
Any final recommendations other than watch Half-Blood Prince and Children of Men?
I say watch the whole series and make your own choices on this, because as you can see, there are two Tyler and I, at very least, have polar opposite ends of opinions on this. Well, not quite polar, but...
I still think Order of the Phoenix is terrible. But...
I think that's the one point that we have agreed on in this.
Well, you also don't like Goblet of Fire either, so we're also kind of...
I didn't really care for that either.
So don't watch Goblet of Fire.
God, Goblet of Fire sucks. The book Goblet of Fire is just, like, so full of, like, substantive subplots, and the movie just, like, cuts out everything that's interesting about that book. Like, it's not just about, like, just taking things out. It's like they took out everything that made it interesting.
Okay.
So that's my tirade for this week.
Although I will defend the skillfulness and praise that Deathly Hallows Part 1 deserves. I will defend it.
Deathly Hallows Part 1 is great, and no one can tell me differently.
Yes, basically, yeah, and that's my opinion 1, and 2. I think we need to go back and reference that, especially with the Trump apocalypse coming very soon.
Yeah.
But
something I forgot to remind. Fantastic Beasts and How to Find Them did not help with the coping of Trump. It did not help one bit. So, do we want to move on?
Yeah, let's talk the in-laws.
I'm going to get a drink of water real quick. You set this up.
I'm going to mute myself until I have something useful to say, which I probably won't.
Okay.
Because I didn't see this movie.
It's you and I. Awesome. Let's go.
Oh, you wanna just get into it?
Yeah.
Okay. What a delightful little movie. Arthur Hiller's The In-Laws from 1979, starring Alan Arkin and Peter Falk. Alan Arkin's daughter is marrying Peter Falk's son, and we find out that Peter Falk is kind of a rogue CIA agent, pulling off this kind of operation behind the agency's back, and boy, this movie is a rollicking good time.
Oh yes. I believe the first scene that we are introduced to is Peter Falk taking part in a heist of I'm going to say stamps, but they're platings of different U.S. currency, and I think it's kind of funny that the robbers pick up the bank truck with the guy said, "This is the U.S. Treasury, not Wells Fargo."
Wait. They pick up a bank truck?
They have a giant magnet that they put on it, and they pick it up and go, whoop, and place it somewhere else. And it's
I thought you meant
great.
I thought you meant one of them went and just picked it up by the bumper.
No.
No, this is a thing.
Phenomenal.
And like part of the things that was actually surprising and kind of charming and funny was that they didn't go after the money; they just went after the plates.
Damn it! It's all just money. Oh, here it is.
Yeah, the stunt work in this movie is really quite spectacular, I think.
It's fairly impressive for what it is.
Yeah. So, yeah, just, wow, what a wild ride, you know? It's like...
This is a delightful movie.
Yeah. Like, and you know, you get, like, halfway through it and you kind of think it's over, but then, like, they go to Central America and, like, the fun just keeps on rolling.
Oh my god, like, the fucking general they meet, where he's changed the flag to him with a prostitute.
You know, I didn't think I was going to laugh harder than at the scene where, like, Peter Falk and Alan Arkin are at that diner, and, like, he kind of explains everything. Like, where it's like, John F. Kennedy, at least we tried. What did that mean? Well, that was referring to the Bay of Pigs. That's a great scene. But, like, when they go to that, like, Central American nation, and they meet this general who's got, like, a face painted on his hand, and, like Senor Wences or some shit, and, like, they have, like, a chorus of communist soldiers, like, singing, I think that I shall never see a poem lovely as a tree. It's fucking... It's so good.
The whole South American big business is just fucking great. Like, you have the bit where he leaps onto the taxi.
Yeah.
And it's holding it by the taxi side and goes at a high-speed chase. You have where they're in the chase and they just keep going in circles again and again with no real purpose in mind. This movie's fucking hilarious.
Yeah, it's just, you know, Alan Arkin, like, doing just like a very kind of weird kind of shtick, like, for him. Like, I've only really, I mean, I guess his role in Argo is more of a comedic role. He's kind of like a motor mouth, like, film executive.
Yes, Argo, fuck yourself.
And in this movie, he's, like, getting into it. He's, like, doing physical comedy. You know, he was no, like, spring chicken at this point. Like, the stunt work that both he and Peter Falk do is very fun and impressive.
There's quite a bit of physical stuff in the movie.
Yeah.
And all of it hilarious, like the bit where the strafe, serpentine.
I mean, the villains in this movie are all terrible shots, but
oh yeah, and that's the joke.
Yeah.
Like I think that's the point
works.
where, like, he's being chased by the gunmen, and they do musical chairs around the taxi. Oh yeah.
It's such a fun movie. And the fact that it starts out as, like, a very simple, you know, kind of straightforward, like, well, actually it doesn't, because it opens with a heist scene, but then it kind of downshifts very quickly.
Once the heist stuff stops, it's pretty, like, my daughter's getting married.
Yeah, it downshifts into, like, a very basic kind of, like, meet the parents type of comedy, like, meet the in-laws, da-da-da-da-da. And then, whoop, we're right back into, like, action comedy
escalating.
heist
and I think,
mode.
like, the climax is when you meet the general.
Yeah.
Who we realize has been keeping all the plates of all the currencies in the world, and he's gonna wreck the world economy, I guess.
Yeah. And they even, like, create a fun bit of suspense in the third act when, like, Alan Arkin calls the CIA and, like, they tell him, like, just like, for the sake of safety, but, like, you don't know this. They tell him that, like, Peter Falk has been, like, kicked out of the agency. Yeah. And at the time, you don't know they're lying to him, so you're like, oh my god, like, is Peter Falk just, like, this rogue agent who's, like, gotten Alan Arkin into, like, some way over his head? But no, like, all's well that ends well, and, like, but man.
It's a fucking, that's the fucking, twist, is that, oh wait, he is actually in the CIA.
Yeah. Like, this was all pre-planned and everything, but man, the suspense is palpable.
Oh yeah, that's, it's like, oh shit. And guess what? When they're at the firing squad, you go, wait a minute. There are some stakes here.
Yep. And it's great. Like they both feel like fully formed characters.
Mm-hmm.
They have complete arcs and
Yeah, they both have arcs. There is a complete and satisfying resolution at the end.
Yeah.
Which does complement the characters very well.
It's clever, it's fun, it's got a great mix of like verbal and physical comedy.
Yeah, it's the full 9 yards. It's a delightful little movie that I think the audience should see.
Yeah, this was.
I think I'd like to classify this as one of the many comfort movies we've seen on this podcast.
This is a comfort movie. This is
I'd
very fun and relaxing.
If there hasn't been one that we've done on this, I think this is the first, and it should be in the honorary.
What have we seen so far since the catastrophe? We've seen 2 dark noir pictures. We've seen fucking Harry Potter 3. But and so this is the first comfort picture.
Yes. So that's that about closes the book on another hack fraud show.
I want to say more about the in-laws, but I really can't. It's a delightful little comedy.
Comedies are hard to talk about, but it's
I
really
just want to be awful and quote them.
It's easier if you just see it, which everyone should. It's out on Criterion. They're half off at Barnes & Noble right now. Yes.
Oh, stop just pushing it in our face that you work at Barnes & Noble.
Technically, I don't right now.
What do we have on the docket?
So there is a Coen Brothers movie, which I have like completely overlooked, that I think we should see, which would be 2000s, I think. Oh, Brother, Where Art Thou?
Oh, I haven't seen Oh, Brother, Where Art Thou either. Yeah, perfect, yeah. Sure. Yeah,
I think that's
I want to see George Clooney acting goofy.
It's on Netflix, so should be easy to locate.
Yay.
And then what else do we want to do?
Has there been anything we've been kind of pushing down?
Let me look here. So I wanted to do Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? I thought we could pair this with Sullivan's Travels, but if there's anything else we kind of want to do, because this movie was kind of like based on or inspired by that a little bit. That's like a Preston Sturges movie. We could just watch Children of Men.
Okay.
Fuck it, let's do. How long is Children of Men?
2 hours-ish.
Oh wait.
Fuck it. Yeah, we'll do 2 Alfonso Cuarón movies in a row.
Why not?
Fuck it.
All right, so
I really need to see that.
It's a little under 2 hours. Hour 54.
Okay.
Perfect.
So.
Good.
Great. So Children of Men and Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Combinations. Yay!
Thanksgiving? Question mark? I don't know. All right, we'll see y'all next week.
Are there any Thanksgiving movies?
There's Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, but I just watched that.
Oh yeah, that does exist.
It'll be
next year.
This episode will be going out the week of Thanksgiving anyway, so we're a little late on that.
Yeah, so
we'll do that next time around.
Sure, whatever.
Sure.
I hear Hannah and Her Sisters is a Thanksgiving movie, but I don't want to change tack at this point. All right, goodbye, everybody. Ooh, by the way, look what came in the mail. Ooh.
I can't see.
I can't see. You're just a black. This one.
You painted black.
Hey, wait, is my video not on? Stop it. Music licensing. Remember?
What?
Stop. What? Music licensing. Remember? We can't afford it.
Damn it, you're right.
Anyway,
Mick Jagger will rip our nuts off.
This is.
You were holding that in for so long. Your face looked like a picture of.
This is.
Never devolve into.
Heck was that?
I was going to put some change away, and the plastic heart that I keep it in fell apart, spilling change everywhere.
You broke my heart, Tyler.
Money broke your heart.
Anyway, go on, John. I'm sorry. All right, give me 1 second to yell at my roommates, and then we'll get into this.
You need evidence to back up your claims, Reed.
I
Okay.
have evidence.
Okay,
I
I'm
have
back.
evidence.
It's just weird because this is like the third time that they've been drilling or sawing something while we're recording this.
Do you guys have like an actual workshop in your apartment?
No, just a couple of them are like pretty handy and enjoy like
They're tools, aren't they?
no, they're not tools.
You fat American fucks!
Warner, turn that off.
Oh God, what is he?
No, is that what I think?
This is not the time.
No, you put that shit in
I work 12. No, I work 4:30 to 12:30 this Thanksgiving.
Ew.
Have fun.
On Thanksgiving?
That's retail for you, baby.